it's been a minute. Shit. When we make somebody bad because automatically they don't agree with us about something and we can't have a conversation about it, it's a really dangerous time. That is Uranus and Gemini. It's historically been so. It's always created and catalyzed these great times of change, these great times of big movements that really revolutionize the way that our society moves forward. That's what's going to come from this, is a great change with our people, our society. Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Kelsey, here to teach you astrology and human design in a simple way you can easily understand with my courses and membership. I am so excited about this video. I want to know where you have Gemini in your chart, because that is where Uranus is moving into and will be for the next 7 years. So wherever you have Gemini in your chart is where you're going to experience a lot of innovation, a lot of sudden, unexpected, chaotic change for your highest good in your evolution. So let me know in the comments where you have Gemini. I'll respond to as many as I can. We're also able to go deeper into your chart personally and my opinion in my Inner Circle membership community. So if you want a private space to talk about all this and receive support around learning your astrology and human design, come join my Inner Circle membership community. Also, I'm now monetized on YouTube. Thank you all so much for your support. I couldn't have got here without you. So if you want to send me some money, you can do so by looking for the thanks button near where like the like button is. So hit that like button and also look for the thanks if you want to send me some money. I have been looking ahead to Uranus moving into Gemini for 4 years, since 2021, when I first realized Uranus was going to move into Gemini pretty soon. Back then it seemed like a far away time, but here we are. Uranus is in Gemini right now. It is currently retrograde as I'm filming this video. It's going to move back into Taurus in November. So we're going to get a revisitation of the themes that Uranus has brought us since 2018, 2019, when Uranus first moved into Taurus. We'll get a revisitation of that and a further opportunity to integrate and embody those lessons in whatever area of life or any placements you have in Taurus. And then it will make its final movement out of Taurus into Gemini and won't be there again for 80 years. The last 2 times we had Uranus and Gemini were World War II and the Civil War. I looked at the astrology of the Civil War in my most recent live stream that I did for Charlie Kirk. About at 40 minutes into that video, I did a dive into the 2026 and 2027 astrology, and then I looked at the astrology of the start of the Civil War. Eerily enough, we're in a very similar astrological time period. There's a lot in the same signs. There's a lot of similar kind of transits that are going to be happening the next 2, 3, 4 years that were occurring at the start of and during the Civil War. That's not meant to scare anybody. That's just meant to keep it real. That's patterning. The math is mathin'. I mean, if you're in the US, you know we've been in a very scary dualistic time period. Really over the last 8 years. It got pretty bad during the lockdowns and it has only gotten worse. At the end of the day, I see the most of it on social media, which I think is going to create this mass migration away from social media. I also think because of this political divide, we are going to see a mass migration of people moving. Interestingly enough, I was looking at the U-Haul moving index last night and the themes are pretty interesting. The top 3 states, I believe, number 2 was Texas. Number 1 might have been like South Carolina, North Carolina, or something like that. It's very interesting that we're seeing the majority of people moving from places like California, Colorado even, to places like Texas and the Carolinas. It's just really fascinating. The migration that I've been kind of predicting since the beginning of this year taking place already. And I think also a lot of people are going to leave the country entirely because I don't see it getting better before it gets worse. And that's my intuitive opinion, and that's also my astrological prediction. Uranus and Gemini, I spoke to Uranus and Gemini harmonizing with Pluto in my most recent astrology time update, and someone criticized me for saying Gemini is split personalities. Have you ever met a Gemini? or anyone with Gemini placements, they 100% have split personality. You don't know which side of them you're gonna get. And you might get a certain side that they only show to you. They show a completely different side of themselves to somebody else. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, it just is what it is. It's what comes with the territory of Gemini. It's very mercurial. Mercury as a planet can be a very dark planet. It has two distinct sides. It has the dark side and it has the kind of light side. Like, look up the planet Mercury. It's kind of a scary ass planet. So Uranus in Gemini Gemini is a 7-year cycle of chaos, of sudden unexpected change, of innovations in that sign. Historically, Uranus and Gemini has really brought people to split, has brought incredible duality to our society. Like I said, the last time Uranus was in Gemini was World War II, and what was the basis of World War II? Nazis. Germany was split. So, you know, I also believe Uranus was in Gemini at the time of the French Revolution, the American Revolution. Historically, Uranus and Gemini has really been a split of two distinct ways of thinking, of two sides to the coin, duality. Gemini is the sign of duality. We will always see this split when things are in Gemini. Now, it's not a long-lasting split usually because Gemini is a flighty sign, and Uranus there is kind of like this, it like brings this tornado of duality where people are fighting because they're on one side or the other, and that changes the fabric of our society. The American Revolution, astrology is so fascinating to me. The only real way I've researched so far, I want to read Stephen Tarnas or something like that, wrote this book called Cosmos and Psyche, where he goes into the astrology of history and the themes that play out. I want to read that book. I'm trying to find it where I am in Montana right now. I haven't had success yet, but highly recommend that. I'll link it in the description. Such a good book from what I've heard on the themes of astrology transits throughout history. From the research I've done into the American Revolution, which is really just watching reenactments of shows and things, there were two distinct sides during the American Revolution. There were people who wanted to stay attached to and under Britain's rule, and there were people that did not and fought for America's freedom, and thus we have freedom from any other country in the world. Arguably, you know, that can be debatable, but that's not what we're talking about in this video. We're talking about the fact that Uranus and Gemini creates this really stark and strong duality between two ways of thinking. Gemini rules the mind. Gemini rules our communication. Gemini rules our thoughts. Uranus, like I've said, is the planet of chaos. So we are entering into this 7-year cycle of chaos through information, chaos through communication, chaos in our mind. I have been saying for years, with all that's been transiting Pisces, we need to be on our spiritual practices right now, more so than ever, to have this spiritual fitness, to have this, not just spiritual fitness, but also fitness of our nervous system, so that when people are coming at us chaotically because their minds are not trained, their minds are brainwashed to think a certain way based on what they see on social media, which is really sad. It's really frightening that a lot of the population, it seems, I mean, again, this is heightened on social media because that's where it's happening and that's where people are just perpetuating it, but it's really sad to me that we seem to have, a lot of the population has seemed to have lost their ability to think critically, and they don't even see it. It's so sad because it's just literally how their minds are programmed. It's frightening, and it is creating another civil war. It could create another world war. It could really further this split. And again, I don't know the timeline really on these things. That is finicky because of Uranus and Gemini. Our world is so unknown, but we have to focus on what we can control and what we are led to and we are called to. And this is why I teach astrology and human design with my courses and support you on learning yours in my membership, because it is such a useful, helpful, valuable tool to know now more than ever of how your system works, of how you are meant to trust your intuition, right? That's human design. Human design gives you a way to make decisions that is in alignment with you and your energy and your highest potential and purpose. Highly recommend starting to live your human design if you haven't already, and really just revisiting how to follow it, because it's going to help so much during these unknown times to just trust your own guidance system, to trust your own inner authority, and to trust your timing, your life's timing as well, which is the astrology piece. That is really something that's going to help us make it through, is that those two tools, and or whatever tools you're called to that help you and support you, and being on your spiritual practices, whether that's nature, yoga, meditation, all the above, praying. I've had a lot of people in my comments saying they're really turning to prayer right now to help. You know, whatever calls to you is what you're meant to be doing to support you energetically, spiritually, physically, mentally during this time, because we're in a time of change. I've had a lot of people ask me, when's it gonna get better? I'm sorry, it's not gonna get better. we have to make the most of what we can. We have to focus on the positives. We have to be grateful for what we can be grateful for. When I say it's not going to get better, I mean the world is going through massive change right now. The world is going through an incredible transformation. This is Pluto in Aquarius. Aquarius represents the collective. It represents our society, humanity as a whole. Pluto is transformation and Pluto is control. There's going to be these clamping down of control on our society, and I think this whole, I've talked about this in the Charlie Kirk video, I think that is an example of trying to control free speech, of trying to silence people, of trying to say, look what can happen if you are vocal about your opinions, and trying to encourage conversations around differing opinions with people of all different backgrounds and colors. And look what can happen. That's Pluto in Aquarius, right? There's a dark side to all of these things, and the dark side of Pluto in Aquarius also creating a heavier reliance on technology. I've been talking about this in my inner circle membership community. I think there's really going to be this split of humanity, not only because of politics, which is so sad because the government doesn't care. The government has never cared. In America, at least, they don't care. So politics is really a moot point to even be fighting about. That's not where I was going with that. I lost my train of thought. I found my train of thought again. There's going to be this split of people, politics aside, might be related to politics. I mean, it's all related, we could argue. We saw that during the lockdowns, where the fissure and the cracks in our society just deepened and worsened, and now it just seems they've been blown apart. There's gonna be people that really want to merge with technology, whether it's because there's fear rhetoric spread, or there's another kind of sickness, whatever virus, whatever, you know, technology is promoted as the answer, whatever it is that kickstarts it or catalyzes it, it doesn't matter. I really see with Pluto and Aquarius, especially Uranus-in-Gemini, we're also going to have Jupiter in Virgo in the next couple years. I believe 2 years we'll have Jupiter in Virgo. It will square Uranus. That's not going to be a fun transit. That could be when all of this kind of begins, or when this big thing happens, because I also think Saturn might be squaring Pluto or close to it at that time as well. Saturn square Pluto is going to be gnarly. I try to stay away, and I have tried to stay away from these doomsday dark kind of lenses or perspectives when it comes to astrology transits, but Saturn square Pluto, it's hard to see that as a good thing. Really challenging to see that as a good thing, because Saturn Pluto stuff is what was happening at the time of the lockdowns. So anyways, we are several years off from that, at least 3 or 4, but it's gonna happen, and I think that might create, like I said, this split, further divide between people who rely on technology and literally merge with it, whether it's like microchips or whatever it is, who become transhuman, and people who outright reject that and want to return to the land. And I think this is why so many of us have been holding on to dreams, or talking about dreams loosely, of like wanting to get land with our friends and build a little commune community, like removed from the rest of society. That is what we're gonna start to see. I've talked about this in a few other videos, that I grew up reading books like Brave New World in 1984. I grew up reading a lot of books about apocalypses, like post-apocalyptic worlds, and they're fictional, but I am starting to think they're not so fictional. That maybe they were channeled of what could come about, or what could be a future of the earth. It starts with dividing the people, right? Which is what Uranus and Gemini is bringing, and we're already seeing it. When people can't agree, when people can't just understand each other, it's not even really about agreeing with each other. It's about understanding that we're all human, and that we all have different experiences, and we have different beliefs or preferences or what have you that lead to our certain opinion. When we can't see that, and we automatically make someone who, you know, is human just like us. We all poop. We all have people that love us. We all have people that we love, right? We all truly are mirrors of each other, and duality, uniqueness is a beautiful thing. Diversity is a beautiful thing. But when we make somebody bad because automatically they don't agree with us about something, and we can't have a conversation about it, we just resort to calling them names or labeling them as this or that or whatever, instead of like meeting them where they are and trying to understand. It's a really dangerous dangerous time. That is Uranus in Gemini. I mean, not to beat a dead horse around it, it's historically been so, right? And it's always created and catalyzed these great times of change, these great times of big movements that really revolutionize the way that our society moves forward. And so that's what's going to come from this, is a great change with our people, with our society. I got off on a tangent. Gemini rules my chart, so I know Gemini energy really well. I am Gemini energy. We all have Gemini energy. And Brave New World was one of my favorite books. It still is, but it's a scary book. There's a reason it was banned, because it accurately portrays what could happen if there is a population of our society that relies too heavily on technology and we start to do things like artificially create human beings in labs, which maybe is an extreme thing. Maybe we might not get that far. There's going to be this split of people who kind of create this whole new world that's really overly reliant on technology because they've merged with it, and people who don't want to do that, who want to live as we always have for hundreds of thousands of years as human beings with the land and on the land. I've done other videos on Uranus. I did one back in 2023, I believe, and I'm not happy about that video because I had just come out of a really traumatic housing situation and I was like not confident in myself, and in the video I'm like whispering because I was living in a mother-in-law suite and I didn't want the person in the house next to the mother-in-law suite to hear me. I was really healing from some serious psychological housing trauma. It is a good video. The content of that video is good. Maybe I'll transcribe it and turn it into a blog post or something, because Uranus represents 7-year cycles. It represents the 7-year cycle of change, of innovation through chaos. Change is chaotic. And whenever we're in a transition of Uranus into a new sign, there's this very big unknown. There's this very big transitional energy of like, oh, stuff's changing. What do I do? Where do I go? How do I make the most of this? How do I navigate this? It happened back in 2019 when Uranus moved into Taurus. On a personal level, wherever Uranus is now moving through for you is going to create a huge change in that area of your life over the next 7 years. For me, moving through my 8th house where it just was in Taurus, because I have my sun, my Mercury, my South Node in Taurus. Uranus on my South Node was not fun. It was a lot of me revisiting themes of like death, of resourcefulness, of money stuff and past life stuff, healing a lot of past life stuff around money, finances, feeling supported, feeling like I can have resources and create resources for myself even in times of great change. It was also a very transformational time for my psyche. Like, I am not the same person. I've been 100 different versions of me in the last 7 years because Uranus through my 8th house really dug up a lot of psychological stuff around empowerment, around embodiment, which is a lesson of Taurus, around my own personal power and my sexuality as well, all 8th house themes. So I have really gone through a massive change in all of those ways over the last 7 years. When Uranus was in my 7th house, I was a serial monogamist. I was in relationship after relationship after relationship, and all of those relationships kind of ended chaotically and were kind of chaotic in their own way during the relationship. And then the minute Uranus left my 7th house, it was a focus on me, because Uranus also is a planet of distance. It's a planet of detachment. Uranus in my 7th house, it was like I manifested a lot of partners who I would only be in a relationship with for like a year and a half, and then I was on to another long-term relationship. But it was like there was something missing in all of those partnerships. There was a kind of distance or aloofness to all of those partnerships in a way as well, and that's Uranus energy too, where it can kind of create this distance or this aloofness, this sense of detachment. Check wherever you have Uranus moving into, wherever you have Gemini. I teach this in my Become an Astrologer course. I teach transits. If you want some guidance, if you want to learn from me how to read transits and apply them to your chart, and also be able to predict crucial life timing things like when to plan a move, when to start a relationship, when to have children, when to make a career change. Like if Uranus is moving into your 10th house, you might be making a career change right now. I teach you how to look at and analyze your chart based on all of those crucial life timing things in my Become an Astrologer course too. Those are bonus lessons inside after you learn the basics. Then we go into my special methods with the bonus lessons in the course. So come join if you want to learn astrology from me. But there's layers to this, right? So there's how it's going to show up for you, and there's how it's showing up in the collective. Like I said, how it's showing up in the collective is it's really going to create this split, this divisiveness, unfortunately, between people. And so it's just important not to get too attached to which side you're on, or nihilistic or cynical because of this. It's just what needs to happen in order to evolve our society in the ways that are needed and create the space for change to happen. I think this is also going to wake a lot of people up to kind of see like what is happening and the scary ramifications of this thing kind of happening. So I do think it's going to create a lot of good. I think it's going to create a lot of strong communities, and it's going to create this pioneer movement too. This is how I've seen Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries, is this kind of new frontier energy. I mean, it happened in the late 1700s when we had similar transits as well. That's what it's going to bring now. And I feel like I have to say this too. Again, I don't mean for any of this to promote this doomsday way of thinking about stuff. I don't think how we interact with and go about normal society is going to change that much. Another thing too about change, great change, is it's going to take time. It's not, this kind of merging with technology is something we might not see for 5, 10, 15 years, right? I don't, again, have a timeline on that. But it is going to be a big theme of Pluto and Aquarius as Pluto moves through Aquarius for the next 15, 18 years, right? So I think by the time Pluto leaves Aquarius, we are going to start to see that taking hold in more ways than we do right now. And I also think that this is going to change a lot of our belief systems, a lot about how we relate to each other, a lot about how we just interact with the world around us. I think a lot of us are developing more compassion and understanding, and maybe wanting to create like our own kind of community or our own kind of societies where that is a root of it, right? Where that is a foundation of it. Like I said, I think there's going to be all of these new towns that emerge. I think there's going to be all these new communities, these new kind of societies that pop up from this. That is a really good thing, because right now cities just are not sustainable, and the way that we've been living is just not sustainable. The housing market is just not sustainable, right? So I think this kind of initiative to return back to the land is going to be good in a lot of ways, even if it, you know, comes at the cost of seeing some really scary things in our society that trigger us to do that. Does that make sense? That's what I see with Uranus and Gemini. It's gonna be a wild 7 years. We're in this until about 2031, when Uranus will move into Cancer. It's just really crazy to look so far ahead. I've only in the past recent years gotten into astrology transits. I didn't know much about them in 2021 when I was first looking ahead to Uranus and Gemini. I just kind of knew like, oh, the last time that happened was the Civil War and World War II. Like, that's kind of eerie, and I got like crazy chills just looking ahead that was coming. And I still don't really know exactly how it's going to show up fully. You know, these are my opinions. Instead of like meeting them where they are and trying to understand, it's a really dangerous time. That is Uranus and Gemini. I mean, not to beat a dead horse around it, it's historically been so, right? And it's always created and catalyzed these great times of change, these great times of big movements that really revolutionize the way that our society moves forward. These are what I'm feeling, sensing intuitively, but whether that happens in 5 years or 50 years, like, you know, it is what makes looking so far ahead challenging, and what makes looking into the future and predicting this stuff challenging, because we really don't know. We can say we know, we can pretend we know, we usually really don't. Another thing we're gonna see with Uranus and Gemini, and I'll leave you on this final note, is a lot of misinformation. So just really be careful. We saw this when Jupiter was in Gemini. During the election, Jupiter was in Gemini, and it created a lot of misinformation. Like, I don't know if y'all saw some astrologers saying like, oh, the election was gonna get overturned and blah, 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 and like spewing that misinformation. When anything's in Gemini, we really run the risk of, what is that phrase? It's like information overload, like people not just spewing out shit, people not knowing what's true. So you really have to use your discernment. You really have to trust your intuition. If you see something, read something, and you feel like it's off, or you're like, wait a minute, like, don't take things at face value, right? Only trust nothing that you hear, and only trust like half of what you see. Make conclusions for yourself. Trust your intuition. Do your own full research. I feel like for those of you now that are sticking with me through all of this and watching my videos, despite my opinions and beliefs about the recent events, I appreciate you so much. I feel like you already know this, but Quotes are not information. A 10-second snippet of somebody is not information. An edited clip is not information. Go straight to the source. Watch that full clip in its entirety. I had to spend 30-40 minutes the other day trying to find a full clip in its entirety to really see what was going on, because turns out what was said was taken out of context. So really just be wary of that, because that's only going to get worse as Uranus continues to move through Gemini, especially when we're in Gemini season. Again, don't trust anything you hear and only trust half of what you see, and question everything, right? Bring back curiosity, also a trait of Gemini. So we really need to have that at the forefront of our minds, of like, okay, is this true? Let me look into it. Let me be curious about this. Let me not get stirred up in the chaos and take it at face value, but let me really see and find out for myself and make my own conclusions. Otherwise, you're being brainwashed. And that's what I have to say about Uranus and Gemini. Let me know how this video resonated with you. I love you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.